Wait.
Don't even think about it. Get down off that horse.
A couple really classic movies turned 50 this year. It's been 50 years since 1975. Steven Spielberg's Jaws is one, which we're going to be discussing later this summer. Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon is another one, based on the 1844 novel The Luck of Barry Lyndon by William Makepeace Thackeray.
Yes, Brady, of course.
Starring Ryan O'Neal, Marissa Berenson, Patrick McGee, Hardy Kruger, Diana Corner, and Gay Hamilton. Barry Lyndon was Kubrick's next film after A Clockwork Orange, and using several of the same cast members from A Clockwork Orange, including Philip Stone, Jeffrey Quigley, Stephen Burkoff, Anthony Sharp, and Pat Roach.
He's not feeling too good again this morning, Dad.
Yes, I heard. You know what time you got in last night?
No, I don't, love. I take me sleepers.
I wonder, where exactly is it he goes to work of evenings?
Kubrick originally wanted to direct a Napoleon biopic, but after the failure of the Dino De Laurentiis produced Waterloo in 1970, nobody wanted to finance another Napoleon film for a while. We'd always see Kubrick's various obsessions play out on screen. In the case of Barry Lyndon, it's his interest in history, particularly in the mid to late 1700s. A historical period piece, it's easy to see how that would have played out in a Napoleon film. Barry Lyndon takes place between 1750 and 1789, encompassing both the 7 Years' War and the American Revolution.
Barry's first taste of battle was only a skirmish against a small rearguard of Frenchmen who occupied an orchard beside a road down which a few hours later the English main force would wish to pass.
Not mentioned in the film, but one of my favorite historical facts. The 7 Years' War was actually sparked by George Washington, whose attack on a French scouting party at Fort Necessity as an ambassador for the British sparked a diplomatic row that would spiral into the global conflict between France, Austria, Saxony, Sweden, and Russia on one side, and Prussia, Hanover, Britain, the American colonies, and India on the other. A 7-year war with fronts on 5 continents: Europe, Asia, North America, South America, and Africa.
Let it suffice to say that England and Prussia were allies and at war against the French, the Swedes, the Russians, and the Austrians.
The young Redmond Barry's life is constantly transformed by the kind of impulsive violence common at the time. His father is a genteel Irish lawyer who's killed in a duel, and his mother then becomes obsessed and overprotective of her son. When we see Redmond Barry, he's awkward and nervous and in love with his flirtatious cousin, Nora Brady, whose hand he wants to win, but who's been promised to British Army Captain John Quinn, whose enormous dowry is promised to his cousins. They scheme to get Redmond Barry out of the way by faking a situation where Barry shoots John Quinn in a duel, and then they make him flee to Dublin. Barry is immediately robbed by highwaymen, and then joins the British Army going to war in the 7 Years' War.
How do you do? I'm Captain Feeney.
Captain Feeney.
Captain Feeney at your service.
The Captain Feeney.
None other.
Along with his lifelong family friend, Captain Grogan, who admits that Barry's cousins tricked him into fleeing. When Grogan is killed in battle, Barry inherits his fortune from Quinn's dowry, and tries to flee the army pretending to be an officer bearing a message, but gets caught by Prussian troops, where he's pressed into service as a spy that's supposed to work as a manservant for the Chevalier de Barry, who the Prussians suspect is an Irish con artist.
I have a confession to make to you. I'm an Irishman, and my name is Redmond Barry. I was abducted into the Prussian army 2 years ago, and now have been put into your service by my Captain Pottsdorf.
Upon hearing the Chevalier's brogue, Barry double-crosses the Prussians and becomes the Chevalier's accomplice. They escape together and go on a hot gambling streak. But Barry wants to be a kept man, and he manages to marry Lady Lyndon after her husband gets cucked so hard he dies. Lyndon's son, Lord Bullingdon, a young boy, immediately knows he has bad intentions. But Barry manages to have an anchor baby and stick around, ingratiating himself into the English aristocracy.
The ill treatment of the insolent Irish upstart whom you have taken into your bed It is not only the lowness of his birth and the general brutality of his manners which disgusts me, but the shameful nature of his conduct towards your ladyship, his brutal and ungentlemanlike behavior.
Barry begins abusing his wife and stepson while cherishing his new son and draining all of their money, being nothing more than a lech. The clashes between Barry and his stepson get worse and worse. He orders his stepson out of the house, and Barry's other son dies in an accident, leading him to sink into debilitating alcoholism. Finally, Lord Bullingdon returns, coming full circle. He challenges Barry to a duel, shooting him in the leg, which has to be amputated, and ending the hold he has on the family.
Cock your pistol and prepare to fight.
Leon Vitale, who played the adult Lord Bullingdon, was so taken by Stanley Kubrick, he went on to be his personal assistant. The themes of Barry Lyndon have been analyzed constantly. One is fate and luck, which was a big factor in every story about Napoleon too. Only Barry Lyndon is not a man of action or a man of destiny. He's a man who seems to be pushed along by events. As Roger Ebert says, he's a man that things happen to, and as Danny Boyle, director of 28 Years Later, has commented, Barry is actually mostly completely passive in most of his story. Things happen around him, entire wars, and Sir Charles Lyndon suddenly dying as if being forced out by a hand. The film is narrated by Michael Hordern, who continually hints at fate and luck pushing Barry's story forward. He's almost completely helpless most of the time, and the choices he does make are terrible, such as not shooting his stepson, who then shoots him in the leg. It's an interesting pairing with The Clockwork Orange, which asks if it's possible to use force means to change someone's nature. In both battle scenes and the duels, Kubrick has the violence here as an organized force, with rules of engagement and a proper order to them. An attempt to tame something much darker. Much like the aristocracy that Barry Lyndon is mocking, an ordered facade held together by nobles vouching for prospective aristocrats and purchased titles.
But there were IRA incidences going on, and we were a British company. We had to change all our plates on our car. I wore an American flag shirt around you, so they'd not confuse me with the actual Irish. And they were threatening. They were threatening, and they did threaten Stanley's family. And they even came to the door, and the maid said, "Don't let them in. Those aren't painters." They said, "We're here to paint. We're here to paint." And she said, "They're not painters. Don't let them in."
At the same time Barry Lyndon was filmed, the Troubles were happening, and Stanley Kubrick actually became paranoid in Ireland that the IRA would kill him. They did send him threatening messages. One more thing, Kubrick was very inspired by the Rococo paintings of the 18th century, including Vermeer, Brouwer, and Ter Borch, as well as William Hogarth. Kubrick was desperate to avoid the artificially lit costume dramas of the time. The cinematographer John Alcott and Kubrick avoided electric lights, using candlelight wherever possible, and super fast 50mm lenses. Among the 4 Oscars won for Barry Lyndon were Best Cinematography, Best Scoring, Best Costume Design, and Best Art Direction.
And as I cannot personally chastise this low-bred ruffian, and as I cannot bear to witness his treatment of you, and loathe this horrible society as if it were the plague, I have decided to leave my home and never return.
Before I introduce the panel, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Then hit that bell to get notified whenever we're streaming. Super chats are now open. If you have any pressing questions, send us a super chat, which helps me maintain the expenses for the show, which I am obligated by the rules of the Geneva Convention to stop everything and ask the panel. Another way to help us out is to become a patron and give us money every month. In exchange, you get access to all of our after parties, bonus content, and we'll tell you even more movies we watched recently. Patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. We have a Movie Night Extravaganza Discord. There's an invite link in the episode description, and we have a Letterbox HQ account. So those are 2 more places to follow along with us. Okay, let me introduce the illustrious panel. Conan Neutron is the host of Protonic Reversal, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza, and the frontman for the band Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. You can check out his music and hopefully buy some at neutronfriends.bandcamp.com. Kristina Oakes is a co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza and a Twitch streamer. You can find her streaming at twitch.tv/cosmopolitics. All of her social media accounts are also at Cosmopolitics. She's on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky, and even occasionally on Letterboxd. Kristina is now on thisspace.tv. Follow them on YouTube and Instagram to get the schedule. Ed Burmila is the author of Chaotic Neutral, How the Democrats Lost Their Soul in the Center, and the host of Mass for Shut-ins, the Gin and Tacos podcast, and a writer including for The Nation and The New Republic. I, of course, am your host, the Chevalier du Flaco, Forrest Miller. I need to get myself a peerage now that this podcast is 4 years old. Coming up soon, we will also be on this space. Old syndicated movie night extravaganza episodes will be on Thursdays at 10 p.m. Eastern, and hopefully soon we'll be live on there as well.
Nice.
I don't know. Yeah, it cracked me up. But now that it's been July 4th, so it feels very good.
We're American.
That's good, yeah. And welcome to the show, man. Good to have you.
I'm really glad to be here. I'm tickled that you asked me. Thanks.
You practically challenged me to a duel if you weren't allowed to cover Barry Lyndon. So I think that if you're going to demand satisfaction, I better give it to you.
Every time I hear I demand satisfaction, I think of Devo. I don't get no.
Right.
Absolutely. The show.
Oddly enough, that's like the first scene everyone remembers from this movie is the church duel, and it's one of the few in the movie. It's not in the book. You know?
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah.
It's completely made up for the screenplay. They needed some kind of big resolution at the end, and the novel is it's not a situation where the novel's better than the book. It's just very different. It's all first person narrated by Barry, and you just get direct thoughts from his head for 300 pages,
which he has. He does have thoughts.
Is it more satirical? Is it more specifically satirical or less? Because somebody commented, someone that I like a lot, the guy from Radio Warner commented on one of my posts and said something about like the satire of the classes within the book. People don't really get it as much. And
it's funny actually. The book, there's a lot of humor in it that just doesn't come through in the movie at all because you're getting kind of his inner monologue, and he's a chode. So most of what he's thinking is kind of stupid, But it just makes a lot of the themes that you get from the movie anyway, like really explicit in the book. He's a soulless social climber, he's an opportunist, and everything. So you don't really need the narration to pick.
Yeah, well, because the narration comes in at a completely different. I mean, it's like a guy that's not even on screen. I thought at first it was the guy that was like his his kind of wannabe mentor kind of, but it's not. It's just its own character, and he's just kind of telling you like this storybook tale of the life of Barry Lyndon, and it's like I don't know. It adds like a very different thing to it. It adds something almost ethnographic to it. Like it's almost like at times you're watching a movie like History of the World Part 1 or something, where there's like an ironic narrator telling you the story of things that happened in the past.
I always think it's funny when you see a movie and there's just that really, really minimal narration, just a couple parts. So it's like they couldn't really commit to having a narrator narrate the whole movie, but there were like three specific spots where they were like, we can save 60% on our budget if we don't do
we don't need to film this. Right, exactly.
And just have a voice of God come down and be like, oh, and then Barry went here,
and then this happened. Yeah, okay, great.
Right.
Well, it makes sense. It makes sense here because so much of the acting is facial. Like so much of the acting is not in the actual dialogue, which I mean, when you look at like A Clockwork Orange, like so much of that movie is the dialogue and the irony of the images placed against the words on the page, I guess. And in this movie, it's really not like that. In this movie, so much of the acting and so much of what makes it brilliant is like the facial stuff that you're seeing, especially with like Marissa Berenson and her beautiful like blue piercing eyes that really do come through like an oil painting.
And what does she have in this movie? Like 10 lines?
Right.
Present in the whole movie, but it's more like 2001 where the dialogue, like you said, it's almost incidental to what else is going on in the film for the most part.
I forgot that she's the sister of Barry. Was married to Anthony Perkins. Her sister died on 9/11 in the Flight 11.
Oh wow!
Hit the first tower.
Yeah, I found out about that.
I never put that together.
Yeah, her sister was in one of the planes.
Yep,
that's crazy. That's crazier than the dude who plays the kid, like becoming Stanley Kubrick's real life assistant and like right hand man, major domo. He's all over that documentary and basically
her sister was
fascinating too.
That was constantly giving the quotes that was like she didn't put it together, even though Anthony Perkins was like, "Hey, I'm like gay." And she's like, I thought he was like he was he wasn't being like literal, like he was gay or like.
Well,
I thought it was gay like the 1890s, right?
Yeah.
It was just, okay, so you're festive. Who cares?
Yeah. I'm so happy right now. I feel gay. I feel happy. Like,
yeah. Who exactly? It's interesting. This is a early cinematic achievement for himbo representation as well as side quests. This is like, this movie is it's a vibe movie, right? It's like, what's he doing? He's wandering over here now. Now he's wandering over there. I guess he's hooking up with this chick. Okay, cool.
Yeah, roam around.
Sorry. but it is in a good way, and the fact that it's crazy to think about. Yeah, following up 2001, right, which was 2000.
Oh no!
There's a problem right now with StreamYard and these backgrounds, which is why I'm green. But yeah, this is right after Clockwork Orange and 2001, but A Clockwork Orange especially. Like, this is directly after. Here, Tony, you can keep going with this.
Yeah, as I was saying, following up 2001 with
seamless Forrest. By the way, you're a real pro.
We've been doing this for 4 years now, so better be good at it. But following up that with something like this, where it's like, well, he can do the future, but can he do the past? And this is the movie that also, one of the things I love about it is it tricks dudes into watching a period piece.
Yeah.
Because it is a period. I mean, look at all the candlelight shots. Mm-hmm. Which is again period appropriate, and that's such a Kubrickian thing. Yeah, we're gonna shoot it by candlelight. It's gonna take us 90 days to get 3 minutes of film, but it's gonna look amazing.
Did you say Nosferatu?
Really interesting deception going on there with the candlelight. I saw an interview a long time ago with one of the cinematographers for the movie. So there is no electric light, but the rooms when they're shooting these scenes are always full of candles. So you see, for example, if two characters are sitting at a table, there's 3 candles on the table. That's not the only candles in the room. They took trays and just sort of filled the floor of the room behind the actors with, 50 candles to create more light. Because if you really tried to do it with just what you can see on camera, I don't think there's any technology in the world where there'd be enough light to be able to film like that. So,
well, absolutely, but it's something where the effect, like with everything, like the fact that despite moon landing. Conspiracy theorists notwithstanding, Stanley Kubrick did not in fact go to space to film 2001, and that's still one of the best space movies of all time. You're just talking to someone that's so incredibly detail oriented. I think it's so amazing that they him and Ryan O'Neal spent every day together except for Christmas for a year working on this movie, and it's like, well. But what's Barry doing? He's running around. He's running around the countryside. You didn't need to be there every day. I mean,
I'm sure his kids appreciated not having him around.
Right. Yeah. He was a real train wreck, wasn't he?
Yeah. Friend Tatum. Hey, girl.
Yeah, that's exactly. Ryan O'Neal. I mean, we could do a whole podcast just on Ryan O'Neal. I mean, Jesus Christ.
You can see that start to show off on his face throughout this movie. I mean, the bags under his eyes, right? They're accentuated for effect, but the bags under his eyes, are very real by the end of it. And it's it's that image that, I mean, it ages him throughout the movie, but they're there throughout the whole thing, and that's his body starting to deteriorate. From a lifetime.
No amount of correcting concealer can fix those eyes.
Yeah.
One thing I do love, and I want to say, is that unlike other famous imposters and charlatans in media, he always believes it. He always selling it and believing it. Contrast with Gaius Baltar in the Battlestar Galactica reboot, who's just constantly got you should have a Photoshop bead of sweat on his forehead the entire time he's on screen, which is great. That actor is lovely, and what he does with that character is wonderful. But it's so funny because the way Ryan O'Neal plays it is just well, of course, yes, of course I'm now landed gentry. Yeah, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Common criticism of this movie is always, that his acting, that he's chewing the scenes and he's kind of a ham, and he's it's the thing about the movie that people find the hardest to get into. But I think it's perfect, because if you
what do you think the movie's called?
Exactly what you would like. He's a social climber. He's faking all of this. The scene you have as the background right now, it's one of my favorite lines in the movie. I like the artist's use of the color blue. Is exactly what you say when you're expected to say something and you have no idea.
I know art.
Someone puts a painting in front of you and you're like, I like.
Oh yeah.
blue.
It's like that scene. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Frank Brown's like, "Let me destroy your galley." He's like, "Shit, that and this is art," and it's like a space heater or something like that. Like
yeah, right. Well, it's the similar principle because he is a charlatan, right? He's one of the great cinematic charlatans, but he's so authoritative about it. Like he believes it himself. That even when he's
his full chest,
exactly. Yeah. Even when he's caught, like when he's caught like on that like Highland Pass, and it's like at no point does he ever panic. At no point does he ever like get like, this might not end so well for me. He's just like, no, I got this. It's like it's just that unearned confidence of the himbo. I swear.
I mean, if you're a complete bullshit artist, what else can you do but just try to bullshit your way through everything?
He walks so that Johnny Bravo could run.
It's unearned confidence, but at the same time, there's these weird scenes where he like actually does, and the narrator even makes sure to like tell you like, hey, he's like very good with a sword, very good fighting the one guy that's way more jacked than him. That he can just go and keep doing that. Like, there's so many scenes where it's like it's not only just that he's it's unearned confidence, which it is, but he also has these weird talents that make him such like a a normal guy probably would have just gotten smoked right away by the by the Austrians.
So first of all, great scene. Secondly, it's also that with those kinds of things, you see his strength, which he would be an influencer today. Barry Lyndon would be like an insufferable influencer that we all have.
Oh my God, he would be like a manosphere type of dude.
He would totally be a manosphere guy hawking crypto.
He would be more
Absolutely.
successful than like Andrew Tate and all these other dudes that like have OnlyFans models and just degrade them all the time, all day on their podcast. Like,
he's doing that throughout this.
Yeah,
he's degrading every woman that he encounters.
Yeah.
Yep.
But he's not. But the tag to that is he's not skillless. That's important to note. That he does have skills. It's just that he's not the brightest bulb in the drawer, and and like he's not the best person character wise.
Like those aren't. You don't have to go to college to learn how to.
You know how there's that meme where it's like your mistake was idolizing the meme as all the guys. Where's Barry Lyndon at? Like where's he at? Where's this movie ranking among like men?
Maybe this Criterion reissue.
Idolize Barry Lyndon though. It seems like everybody he meets hates him. I mean,
no, I think Kristina. I think you mean like fans, right? Like fans of the movie. Like the Fight Club. Like, this
Joker,
is not goals.
I mean, American Psycho, right? Like American
I was
Psycho.
real serious questions about anybody who watched this whole movie and came away at the end thinking, you know what, I like that guy.
What a cool guy! He did nothing wrong.
You'd be amazed.
But
what a person to pattern my life after.
The thing that also is funny about this, right? Like it makes a lot of sense once you realize that Kubrick originally set out to do a Napoleon biopic. So he's thinking a lot about Napoleon while he's writing this. And Napoleon is another person who kind of came from nowhere, not nothing, like he was minor nobility, but he kind of appeared out of thin air and suddenly, from a very minor island halfway between France and Italy. He's like an Italian, and he suddenly kind of integrated himself through his skill, like through his just dominating skill. And just the times, right? Like the vibe and like actually just somehow embodying the entire vibe of the French Revolution. Like he somehow managed to get himself all the way to the top. And there's something very Barry Lyndon is like that, except that he's brainless. He's not that talented at anything, and everyone kind of hates him. But everyone kind of hated Napoleon too. Like when you listen to people talk about Napoleon from the time, like every single person he meets was like, listen, his dick was small, he's kind of tiny. Like everyone said, oh, this guy's gonna be great, and he's not really that great. Like everyone was just talking relentless shit about him that met him, and it's like you could see that same kind of thing come through in Barry Lyndon. Of course, he's not anything special by the end of this, right? Like he's just one wannabe noble in a world full of wannabe nobles, and he's desperately trying to climb. But like you could see where that Napoleon kind of thing comes from. And then the exact year that this ends is obviously the beginning of the French Revolution, where finally people were like, listen, all these people are just kind of hanging around. We gotta like wipe the chessboard with them. They're doing the because they're doing the shit in this movie. They're doing the shit where it's like, oh, they're just kind of wandering around the gallery, abusing servents, like they come in contact with
and that's in the ending too, which is great. Like this, like where we would if it was an 80s movie, have the montage of here's where they are now, and it'd be all guillotines, but, but like you basically they're all equals now. That's how that played out, which is interesting.
You also have Bullington do a training montage where they're like, if you want to take on your stepfather, you got to do this, and it's like a pop song playing, and he's like.
Well, and that's
just constantly fucking up how to load the pistol.
Right, exactly.
Himself in the foot with it, shooting it out the window.
Amazing.
You would like today's guns. That's true.
And it's just him, being terrible. But that said, especially Liam Vitale's representation, the kid actor as well of Lord Billington. Like, what a great anybody with a lick of sense that's ever read a story, seen a movie, engaged with media of any kind is like, that kid's gonna be a problem for you. Early on. And it's like, hey, maybe don't give him the corporal punishment. He already hates your guts and wants you to die. And guess what? It's a FAFO situation for sure. But the way that that Liam Vitale plays it, he's so insufferable, but so full of righteous indignation.
Yeah.
And we've all met somebody like that where it's like, all right, dude, we get it, but you need another hobby. Hating this dude is your only hobby, and it's consuming you entirely.
Yeah.
And
when you come from that class of people where your income is just there and exists, I guess you can devote your whole life to one obsession.
Right.
What else did he really have to do?
Yeah, nothing else. Exactly.
Well, each person in this family is taken by something, right? The mom is just kind of stoically bearing it, but in the beginning, she's so quickly swept away by the Redmond Barry character, even though he's clearly no good. He's swept away by the whole I want to be a social climber thing, and then the kid gets swept away by that it's gonna really be a problem the second he starts hitting him, and he's like, I've never hit a boy of noble birth before like this, but I could make it a habit, and it's like. Well, you don't want to vocalize that exact statement, right? Vocalizing that statement is gonna get you fucked over.
It's Chekhov spanking. If a spanking is introduced in the first act, et cetera, et cetera.
I still cannot believe there's a guy.
Sorry, my dogs completely lost their shit for a second.
Huge Kubrick fans, these dogs. Yeah.
I can't believe there's a guy named Gay Hamilton.
Yeah.
In this movie, I'm like, this could be Gay Hamilton, the movie.
I call him regular Hamilton, but
you're just built different.
One of the things that's really surprising about this movie to me is how much I enjoy it and how what a great film it's often considered when it's so heavy-handed with the foreshadowing. Exactly what's going to happen to every single character the second they walk on screen.
Yeah. But it was said earlier that the story beats are less important than you're just along with this character. Again, himbo representation and side quest representation, both. That both of these things this is what makes it interesting, because the entire swaths of this movie. I've seen it 4 times, I think now, and. All right, there it is.
There you go.
I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this entire plot point. I forgot about this entire kind of subsection of this major part of the story, because it doesn't really matter. Because he's just he's ruined the game in the first half, and then FAFO for the second half, basically.
I mean, but it is sort of it's often compared to a moving William Hogarth painting, and it's like the Race of Progress. You know what's going to happen. It's a real simple Bible story type morality tale. Yeah. Oh, he drinks and gambles and frittered everything away, but it's so beautiful to watch it happen. That's what
if you stopped at the intermission, you'd be like, well, it was a happy ending. Everybody he did great. He was rewarded for it.
There's no other part of the movie.
For being a cool guy.
No additional rewarded for it.
Exactly.
There's something so classic. I mean, we've talked about it with Wolf of Wall Street. We've talked about it with Goodfellas, right? Where it's the rise and then the fall. And a lot, but the way that this movie kind of manages to kill it is that it's a lot mostly rise, and then the fall happens in the last hour. It's a perfect 3-hour thing. The fall begins and then it goes and goes and goes, and his there's just I mean, it goes back to something like Icarus, where it's he's flown too close to the sun, by marrying into this family and treating everybody like shit. Really, I mean, that's
because he takes no social cues. It's maybe dial it back just 20%.
Are we going to end up diagnosing Barry Lyndon with something? Because I'm not comfortable.
I was a psychology major, so him.
Sherry in the comments is also post Love Story too, which was beloved. Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
And Paper Moon.
True story.
Paper
The
Moon
only
as
reason
well.
Ryan O'Neal the only reason the studio allowed them to cast Ryan O'Neal in this movie, they told Kubrick, you can't make this sprawling costume drama mess of a movie unless you put a bankable star in it. You have to take someone who is in the top 10 of the box office in the 70s. And 1 year in his life, because of Love Story, Ryan O'Neal came in at number 10. Yeah. So that one piece of data was all Kubrick had to go on. And he said, look, there's a big billable star in it. It's Ryan O'Neal. It was a total fluke that he was a box office star.
It was like a one and done or two and done, really.
Because his personal life, in a way that we're very comfortable with now, became overwhelming to his actual acting career.
That's kind of of course for all these dudes in the 70s, though. I mean, God, they were all just out of control,
Yeah. Also, his son.
Yeah, they did nothing wrong, and they were just being cool guys. Exactly.
Also, his son murdered the oldest Coppola son. By the way, I don't know if y'all remember that.
Yeah.
There's something like obviously he comes from like Peyton's Place. Like the soaps, like he's.
Sherry brought up a good point.
Acting,
Wait, Sherry brought up a good point. Love. Real quick, I'm gonna finish this point. You're not gonna stop me from doing it. Love Story was.
I demand satisfaction.
I will demand satisfaction. You're correct.
Yeah.
Love Story was huge in a way that history is not remembered it fondly or really remembered it much at all, but Love Story was gigantic at the time.
And it was a surprising hit too. It was filmed for like $500,000 and then made $250 million. Nobody thought this was a hit in progress.
So I'm thinking like what a modern corollary would be, and there like really isn't one where it's like, oh, this guy, I guess he's now the biggest actor in the world. I suppose I don't know. I was like, oh, he's going to be in a period drama with Kubrick? What, the 2001 guy? Are you kidding me? Like what are we doing here?
Yeah. Well, it's
not that good of a film, in my opinion.
It's really not. It's very formulaic, but
it just it struck a chord, and the leads were hot. Sometimes that's all you need.
And they were plausibly in love with each other, so like that,
I prefer the way we were, but whatever.
There's the element of though, right, where he's coming out of Peyton's Place that reminds me of like Starship Troopers in a way, where it's like you cast somebody who is a bankable star. Maybe not even that much of a bankable star besides that one moment, but like you cast people from either like the modeling world or you cast people from the TV world, and it's like these characters are kind of almost like your chess pieces that you're just kind of playing with on a board because of that, right?
Right. That's what David Mamet would have done with a bigger budget.
I once read someone describe Marissa Berenson in this movie as like just part of the scenery. She has so little dialogue, but she's gorgeous. And he didn't even make her do like line reads when he picked her out to do the role. He really just wanted everything on screen to be pretty to look at all times. And that's Mike, he succeeds.
But she projects this melancholy. She projects like this deep sadness from her eyes, and like this stoicism from her eyes.
Very silent star.
That makes you
exactly. Yeah, she's
really,
like
it really. I mean, she is like in some ways she's part of the scenery, but like in other ways, like that is a form of acting. Like he manages to direct her in such a way that she just like seeps melancholy throughout this entire.
Ask Carl Dreyer, right? I mean, look at like the Passion of Joan of Arc. It's all in the eyes for that, and that's great if you're. Maybe honestly, I've never seen her in anything but this. I don't know. I never saw Cabaret.
She didn't have much of a screen career, honestly. Maybe she just didn't enjoy it or something. I don't know.
But I mean, she does look amazing in that way that a lot of people around that time period, they have this incredible like look, but like, what are they really doing? Not much. Playing cards, I guess. I don't know. Like, there's nothing else to do in this house. Like,
Have you ever wanted to reach through the camera and just slap somebody more than the scene where he blows the smoke in her face in the carriage?
What an a-hole.
If she had just stabbed him in the chest and the movie ended right there, I would have been on my feet applauding. Like, good ending. Good ending.
Well, because it's like, you just marry this dude and this is how he's treating you. Like, this is the honeymoon.
They picked the guy, I feel like I've seen him in other things, as Sir Charles. That's such a fucking weird kind of creature. Like in that one scene he's in where he's like, "You will cuckold me, sir." Yeah. Like, and he's like he's hamming it up more than anyone you've ever seen. And then once Ryan O'Neal leaves the room, you hear him go squee, squee, like he's doing like pig noises as he dies. Yeah. And it's like like you have to imagine like she's going from that fucking weird, just over the top, like British gentleman that can't even get the words out of his mouth straight to Ryan O'Neal, and like it's a step up. But then the first time they're in the carriage, he's just blowing smoke in her face and being the biggest asshole in the world.
But as Sherry says in the comments, yes, but he's hot, which
Yeah.
Conan,
I've seen this movie probably like 20 times. It's my favorite movie ever, and I never once had put together until you pointed it out now that Sir Charles died from being cucked.
Yeah,
I mean, I know that's what happened in the movie, but like, oh my god, he actually murdered him through cuckold.
This is why more right-wingers need to watch this movie.
Yeah, the first thing he says is like, he's like, I would rather be cuckolded than lied to, sir. And it's like, oh no, you're gonna die from being cuckolded. Like,
this is not gonna end well, I think. Yeah.
That actor, Frank Middlemass, he appears in Poldark. They did a remake of Poldark on one of the streaming services a couple years ago. It was pretty popular, but on the original one, he's in it. He just carries the whole thing. It's unwatchable except for Frank Middlemass. So I always have a soft spot for him as an actor.
Then one of his first Earls of Frankenstein must be destroyed.
He did not get cuckolded to death in Poldark, though. He just died a very normal, non-cuckolding death. So.
he wasn't in that many things. I'm kind of surprised. Oh yeah, I think he's one of those theater actors. Which,
Henry VI Part 1 and 2, Oliver Twist. I'm looking at his discography, or his filmography now.
Friar Lawrence and Romeo and Juliet. Quentin from Midsummer Night's Dream. Yeah.
Well, Conan, back to your point about like, how the actors and actresses in this movie look. I mean, the one big complaint these days, and I saw like a lot of people like, actors used to have awesome face cards back in the day. What happened? I'm like, everyone's looking the same, wanting Instagram face. That's the problem. That's why no one looks unique anymore.
Yeah. Well, and there's also the style of composition too. How do you frame somebody up, right? And that's something that Lord knows I love it, but like the quick cut cult and like just moving from thing to thing, it's one of the reasons why when that doesn't happen, it's so jarring almost, because it's like, oh, this is so like patient and like, oh, it's Lynchian. Is it though? Because there's plenty of people that did that weren't just David Lynch. And I think that it's notable that I think there's a fear of staying too long, because the thing is, Kubrick stays on these interesting looking people, right? I mean, because these are like, the preacher is an interesting character, and you're just like, God, that's a weird looking dude. The whole time I'm thinking, and I've seen this movie a lot. I'm like,
you can't look away.
Like, look at the Chevalier, how you ever say that? The Patrick McGee, Chevalier.
Yeah.
Sorry, Patrick McGee, which I've seen. Only thing I've seen him in is this and Clockwork Orange. But he's like a unique looking guy, and that makeup where you're just like, what is this guy's whole deal, right? And you're just like watching him, just like span time hanging out with Barry, and it's like, oh, he's like struck in the jacket.
Neil and Marissa Berenson are both really attractive, but the movie, you're right, is really full of people whose faces have a lot of character.
Imagine if Cillian Murphy was around when this movie was
he'd be perfect.
He's
right in. Are you kidding me?
I think that's the reason why Cillian Murphy has had such a great career lately, because he is one of the people that does still look completely unique, right? Like versus everybody else. But so there's like 6 actors.
Carrie Condon as well. Carrie Condon also is a great actress.
But there's like 6 actors. I mean, obviously there's the guy from the beginning of Clockwork Orange, but then there's also Alex's dad, who's like who's at the beginning of the movie that in Clockwork Orange is like, hey son, like that guy. The Grogan character that's like the drunk guy that gets shot, that like he dies and like kisses on the mouth, which is a funny scene. That's the priest from a Clockwork Orange that's in the hospital, as well as the obviously, like, you can tell immediately the guy that's the interior minister in A Clockwork Orange is also is one of the guys that like helps him out. And then the one guy he sword fights is the cop from A Clockwork Orange, and the guy that he fights physically is also like one of the milk bar bouncers in The Clockwork Orange. Yep. So there's like 6 of the actors.
I'm actually going to throw in one more. Philip Stone, a butler from The Shining. The bad in The Shining is an accountant at the end of this film. He's one of the last people who has a scene, but he's not very prominent in the movie.
Kubrick just seems to have his like players that he likes working with. As do many directors. But
yes,
I think it's most notable with Kubrick because
some
of his
people like
profile.
to bitch about that for no reason. I don't get it.
Well, some of it is the fact that Kubrick, once he left the United States, once he was like, I'm done with Hollywood, which was pretty early on in his career, he only would work in England and Ireland and like Europe, right? So only working in Europe, he picked a lot of like Shakespearean stage actors because of that. Because if he was going to bring somebody over to Europe, it would have to be like he had to pay for their flight, he had to pay for their place to live. Like, so a lot of the people he ended up picking, I mean, especially at the Clockwork Orange, were just kind of actors that were around at the time, running around like London.
But think about the run he had where Strangelove, 2001, A Clockwork Orange, and then Barry Lyndon, and then the next movie does The Shining. Right?
Yeah,
where it's
this all after Lolita, by the way.
Well, yeah, we don't speak of Lolita. Like, and don't get me wrong, I like Killer's Kiss and The Killing. Paths of Glory is good.
I love
but
The Killing, man.
Yeah, like they're great, but like these movies did not have the same cachet as Strangelove, especially after it immediately came out.
Well, he didn't have as much control yet at that point in his career. He still had to hand it over to someone else to doctor the movie as they saw fit.
I can't remember what we
and then hold on. Can I get let me finish this? That Clockwork Orange, which had the cultural cachet to the level of Joker, right?
Yeah.
Remember what everybody was like hemming and hawing about Joker, which honestly I wasn't mad at it, but I wish it was a better movie that didn't just rip off Taxi Driver and Kings of Comedy, frankly. But I get it, and it had the same like discourse around that. I was like, is this movie actively corrupting our youth? Which is insane to think about because it's first of all, the Burgess novel is just as crazily
but there is a redemption at the end of the novel.
But there is
cut out of the film. So
correct. But we're talking about like 71. That like this was like, what is this maniac going to do next? Oh, he's going to do a period drama about an Irish rogue. Okay, sure. Why not? Yeah.
Like a movie like Joker is shocking if you've never seen movies before. If you're like 16, you're like, oh my God. Clockwork Orange is legitimately kind of like edgy and shocking. Even
still
if
disturbing.
You're an adult and you've watched a lot of movies and you've seen other things that are shocking, you still kind of think like, wait a minute, should I be watching this?
Yeah, it's funny when everyone like the Joker is like the thing to compare it to. I'm like, nope. I mean, it's like when everyone was comparing like the Cruella movie to Joker. I'm like, no, Black Swan was the OG Joker movie. Just saying. But like, there are other movies that are more edgy and more thought provoking, provocative than a film that came out like what 5-6 years ago.
Right. I've seen 5 movies and this is one of them, so I'm going to bring them up in this conversation. Yeah.
And the first 6 I saw were Marvel movies. So this one's kind of like the first one that's like, whoa, Yeah. And
which isn't to say that you can't enjoy those things. It's just that
I saw Pulp Fiction when I was 14 and it had that effect on me too. I was
Sure.
like, oh my God, this is crazy. Now I watch it as an adult and I'm kind of like, come on, Ed, But you see things at a certain point in your life and it's your introduction and it opens up some things for you and hopefully you use it as a path to go somewhere else with it,
It's funny that you say that though, because there's this famous thing that I didn't know that this existed until I was researching the intro, but Quentin Tarantino apparently got really enraged. There's this famous clip where he's mad he doesn't like Kubrick as a director for whatever reason, which I think Kubrick is a far superior director than Tarantino will ever be.
I mean, it's also like,
but
apples and Joe Cola. It's like very different.
His big beef with Kubrick is that he, once the discourse started around A Clockwork Orange, he was like, this is like an anti-violence movie. And he was like, just embrace it. Your dick's hard. You're filming violence. Just embrace the violence. And he was getting all upset that he didn't double down on how much he liked violence or something. And it was like, this is such a weird thing for you to be. He's had like held a grudge since he was like a teenager.
Did he say that from like his bunker in Israel or something?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on here?
I still enjoy some Tarantino movies. I can rewatch them, but listening to him talk, it's like a fucking thrill.
I think. Look, the official position of the show is we're pro Quentin Tarantino art, and we are not commenting on Quentin Tarantino as a guy.
I absolutely sign on to that. I do not want to see him or listen to him talk about anything, but I'll pop in some of his old movies and go, okay.
Have you watched Jackie Brown recently? We just did it. I was like, God, this is like better than I remember it, which I remember it being pretty good. It's a very good movie.
Kill Bill 1, I walked out of the theater never having hated a movie so much in my life. Kill Bill 2, I went to see it like as a grudge, and I actually enjoyed it.
That's good.
I haven't watched it in a while, but I'm assuming it probably holds up.
I mean, it's Lady Snowblood with Uma Thurman, but not in a bad way. Like it's a better, higher budget version of that.
Well, nobody ever claimed he came up with original ideas.
Right? I mean,
by his own admission, just someone who kind of sampled all this crap, and
Yeah.
Again, I like Quentin Tarantino art, and I am not commenting on the personage of Quentin Tarantino. But I think it's funny that coming off of Clockwork Orange, which again was the Joker of its time, or the Reservoir Dogs, take of that what you will, of its time, that he does something so different that just everyone's like, all right.
And now for something completely different.
Right. The people
used to say.
People were just confused.
I have another another actor one. Leonard Rossiter is the guy that's the John Quinn character. That's the extremely cowardly British officer at the very beginning. That is such a funny character. So that guy was also in 2001: A Space Odyssey. He's the doctor.
He's the Russian scientist.
Yeah.
I forgot that Stanley Kubrick directed Full Metal Jacket.
Really?
Yeah, I forgot.
One of his greatest movies, really? Okay.
I forgot that he directed it. Well, the funny story is when my youngest uncle, my Uncle Michael, wanted to join the Marines so bad. And my dad's like, you're not going to be able to handle it. And he's like, nah, Bill, I got this. So during his going away party, my dad's like, let's watch Full Metal Jacket. He did. And my uncle's like, never mind. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. No. Because that was really what went on. Like, my dad's like, I experienced this shit firsthand. Okay,
what was it?
87.
No, that's not. You don't know what I'm going to say, so don't try to guess it. All Quiet on the Western
Front. Not what he was going to ask.
She's completely wrong. All Quiet on the Western Front, the Ed Berger movie. We were talked about like war movies accidentally making war look cool and like being used as recruitment tools, and that the best deployment, take of that what you will for that use as a phrase, for that is Come and See, which is horrifying, which is like, no, this is like the real cost of war, but it also was considered quote unquote Soviet propaganda when it came out, so you couldn't see it for years. So the problem is that like a lot of these war movies, they clearly the message is this is bad, this is pointless, this is futile, you'll just waste your lives. But they're like, yeah, but it looks cool though. Right. Yeah. Like, no, you're missing the point. But this comes back to like what you were saying earlier, Kristina, about dudes missing the point. Often. Yeah. Which is like Barry Lyndon did nothing wrong.
Which is mostly most Stanley Kubrick films is you miss the point of idolizing.
Right. I mean, I just went on a show to talk about Fight Club, which I quite like, enjoy, and stand by, and will defend vociferously. But most people completely misunderstand multiple elements of the satirical sardonic elements of it.
Well, there's that Godard
Full Metal Jacket. I'm sorry, Forrest. Go ahead.
No. There's that Godard quote where it's like, "There's no such thing as an anti-war film," just because of that fact.
Passive Glory.
Yeah. No,
Passive Glory is even then. It's like up there with like if more people had seen it, sure, Come and See as well. I mean, Come and See is the like if you come away from Come and See and you're like, I think war is great, or that looks cool. You clearly fell asleep in the first 5 minutes because it is.
To plug it though, I think the 10th episode of the show is Passive Glory.
Yeah,
that was one of the first movies we covered on here.
Movie.
Yeah. Well, that's it. But they also don't show. I mean, they show so much more of the trenches than they do the actual fighting, right? Like that's part of what you have to do. I think in order to be like an anti-war movie that really works is that you have to show war life, but not the actual war, which I think Full Metal Jacket does really, really well at times. But then you see the actual combat, and you're in the helicopter. Like they're the helicopters playing Ride of the Valkyries, and it's like, all right, that's kind of fucking cool. Like you can't.
But then when they're pinned down in that firefight, and you're like, oh, dudes are just getting picked off over what? Like, I don't know, a parking lot? Like, what is this? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah,
like, that is very
things about that scene at the end is I didn't figure this out until I'd watched the movie a whole bunch, but it was actually filmed in London. Like, there was a part of London that looked so run down in the late 80s that they make it look like an actual war zone.
That's what, you said. I think Conan or Forrest said, he was filming more like in England at that time.
Because he was done with Hollywood because that was
it's all. I mean, his films were very like by after The Shining they were very like sporadic because he only directed like two. He did Full Metal Jacket and then like Eyes Wide Shut, which I'm like thanks for contributing to the Democratic pedophile nonsense, Kubrick.
Well, we can't blame him for that. I mean, Jesus Christ.
One of the most effective scenes in Full Metal Jacket for whatever reason is like the bird is the word when they're playing with the fucking corpses. Like that shit really like fucked me up. And all of the like miso horn, which I can't believe they sampled that for so many rap songs. But like when they're like messing, like fucking around with like the teenage prostitutes, like moments like that, I think in Full Metal Jacket really work. But like it's the I don't know, it's like the overall nature of combat sometimes makes you be like, well, at least I'm like running around with a gun. Like
it really shows that Kubrick can do just about anything.
I think that's a good point, and thanks for bringing it home, Kristina, because I think that this movie being a vibes movie, which it really is. I mean, the vibes are like himbo grifter.
Immaculate, as the kids say.
But they are also immaculate. It works. It works because the whole time you're like, wow, what's it going to do now? I don't know. Wander around over here and like end up running a company? I don't know. Like, I don't know what's going to happen next.
Way back at the beginning, Forrest mentioned the Ireland and the Troubles stuff and how they had some problems there. The scene in Potsdam in this movie, they actually filmed it in Potsdam, which was East Germany at the time. So it was illegal for Kubrick to just go and spend a bunch of money in East Germany because there were all these embargoes and things like that. But he just did it anyway. He called the people in Potsdam, the city government was like, look, basically they needed hard currency so bad. They were like, we will cover our streets with dirt and make everyone dressed in period costume. Just come and give us money, please.
Please, we need to rebuild the rec center.
Yeah,
It's like we have a little slice of that in Helen, Georgia, a little slice of Bavaria, like
right.
Little Bavaria, they call it. Yeah, well,
the
and
Bavarian Wendy's in Helen, Georgia. I haven't thought about that in 20 years, and you just reminded me.
Well, and that's so interesting because so much of this does depend upon Kubrick and all the talented co-conspirators he has with him, creating these vibes where you just create this incredible loneliness, even amongst the landed gentry and imperial majesties, where it's like, oh, this sucks. Like you can't really go do anything. If you do, like the scene where he's in the restaurant and he's trying to get his lordship, right? Mm-hmm. And he basically was like, yeah, I'll check my schedule. I'll get back to you. I got a lot of podcasts that week. Is what the guy's saying? And it's like, so you're like, dude, just leave the room. He clearly is like, this is not happening. It's like, well, but maybe if it's like, no, bail out, leave, go. And he's like, nope, that's not in this guy's DNA. He just doesn't do it. It tells you everything you need to know about that character.
It's so awkward. It's hard to watch. It's like watching someone wet their pants on a stage. You're just like, I feel so embarrassed for you, but I can't stop this,
Right.
But so much of that, so much of that, classic nobility shit is just these unwritten rules. And it's like, he comes barreling in, having a fight with somebody, like his stepson, Lord Bullington, which I love that his brother calls him Bully, but Lord Bullington, who's such an annoying fucking character. I mean, also does have righteous anger towards his stepdad. Like this is
but that doesn't stop him from being
not likable in any way. There's nothing about him that's likable.
But he. Because of his position within the nobility, because his father was Sir Charles who got cucked to death, he has this standing that this character, that Barry Lyndon, that character will just never have. So because of that, he's allowed to do these things that when Barry Lyndon tries to get back at him, or or even when he's just demeaning him in front of everyone, and he's like, oh, Redmond Barry of Barrington or whatever, he's just making fun of the guy, right? All of that stuff. Because of his position within this unwritten hierarchy and this titled nobility, he's never going, his stepfather is never going to have, and knows he's never going to have. He's able to get away with that kind of stuff way more because you can't really, they're not going to send, unless you do something that's so over the top that you get stripped of your title. You're never going to get
pretty far out there.
Yeah.
Like being an actor in the 70s, you had to really be a drunk for them to be like that guy. Too much.
Yeah.
You know what's an underrated, hilarious scene that I don't think anybody would credit as one of the funniest movie scenes of all time? When he finally snaps and starts beating on Lord Bullington at the orchestra recital, and nobody can get any traction with their feet.
That's amazing.
Flying, and they're all just slipping and sliding because they're all wearing silk pantaloons or whatever. It's hilarious.
It takes 12 people holding him, but when you start trying to hold somebody with that many people, it's less. You have less leverage holding somebody with that many people. So there's just a pile of people on top of each other. But the thing that works well about that and makes it so funny is that like these characters are kind of placed around the room as if it is an oil painting. So for them to even get up and react to what's going on, like it takes so much. So like you're watching like these kind of painting characters get up off their thing and have to hold this guy back who's very active. Like the one character who does seem to only be able to react, but he's able to react fast and like brutally. So you're watching these people that would just kind of be the background of a painting, just trying to hold this like very active.
Barry Lyndon wore his sneakers, so he had like traction, he had rubber soles. Everybody else had like wooden Dutch shoes or something. But
well, and he also gives the younger kid, the kid Brian, that's his his young son,
his bio
off the horse. Yeah. So he but Bullington gives that kid his shoes. So he's
clomp,
in that whole scene, without his clompy shoes. He's in the song.
Someone just suggested in the comments that we sing "Killed by Death" by Motorhead with "Cucked to Death." And I think if you can cue that up real fast, we can do it on the outro.
That's Rick. That's Rick coming in clutch with the that's good.
That works.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's who expected this much cuck discussion on Barry Lyndon? But
the other thing though, in that
it is a key plot point. So
in that specific scene where it finally comes to a real head between Lord Bullington and his stepfather, there's just a line of people. The camera moves out, and there's just a line of people, and it starts with a bunch of people just playing violin. And then Lady Lyndon, she's playing piano in front of them, and then her little which I want to play that clip of the 57 takes, but her like the priest, like the very effeminate priest in front of her, he's playing like the cello very gently, and it goes further and further. There's more and more people, all like in the shape of an orchestra playing together. So when that gets disturbed, finally, it's like there's like 15 people on stage all playing in this weird harmony together, like this very delicate classical music
in that scene, because like he's paid to be a tutor to the kids and he's paid to be like the family religious figure. I don't know if it was in his union contract to also have to like play the clarinet or whatever the hell. How much stuff do they make you do? Like, do they make you clean up the dishes? Like, if they're having.
I have this that I really wanted to play because I thought it was very funny.
I remember the scene well.
This guy.
It was me and the darling Mary Keane, who was Barry Lyndon's mother. My darling Mary, gone now. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful actress. Queen of the Abbey Theatre in Dublin was Mary. Oh, God, she's played the lot. And I had a scene with her. And it was just a long speech about my outrage about how she was treating Lady Lyndon. And on the first few takes, I stumbled the lines. Because I hadn't had them very long from Stanley. About a week, and I still hadn't got them. And I missed the two words, in her house. And because of the nerves, I kept saying her house. I didn't get the double H. Her house. I didn't separate. And so on and on. And then I gradually got it about take 20. And then Stanley decided that perhaps I'd done something that he liked. And so he'd change it. And so I incorporated the change. And he carried on. And we were to take 56, 57. And after the 57th, I went, "Oh, Stanley." "What's the matter, Murray?" I said, 57 takes? "Why, what's the matter, Murray? Do you want a break? Do you want a break?" I said, "Yes, please. Go and get some coffee. We'll have a break." And so I said to him, "Now, Stanley, what am I doing wrong?" Nothing, Murray? Nothing? So I said, well, are we going to do more? I said, yeah, have a cup of coffee. So I went and had a cup of coffee, had a 10-minute break. Okay, back. And what he did was, unbeknownst to me, I didn't know. So we're standing by, the cabin boy comes up, and what Stanley had done was change the slate number, so we went back to take 1. We didn't do the old slate number, take 60, we did a new take number, slate number, take 1. And of course, I burst out laughing. So of course, we're on to take 2. And I think I did 20 more takes. And at the end, he said to me, Murray, I think I've got enough. And John Alcott, standing by the side of the camera, said to me, and Murray, I bet he uses take 3.
I can't tell if I would love listening to this guy and talking to him just for hours on end, or if
he's
I
dead,
would want to choke him to death if I had to sit there and listen to him talk for an hour. Like, just talk faster.
When I was watching, I'm like, this guy looks so familiar. Who? And then I remember he was the musical conductor in the Phantom of the Opera movie that Joel Schumacher directed. And I'm like, oh, that's why he looked familiar to me. He had like one of those faces.
So I am firmly convinced that the preacher character that is marrying people in the male age in The Princess Bride is based off of this character, or an homage to this character, because the vibes are so similar. Where it's that's the first time because we watched Princess Bride for this show a couple years ago.
How the fuck is his name?
Oh,
his name's Murray Melvin. Murray Melvin.
I thought that name looked familiar.
Before we went on the air, I was pointing out that Murray Melvin showed up as like a street tough on a British comedy called The Sweeney. And and I'd seen Barry Lyndon already, and I'm like, where do I know this face from? And it's like the worst cast thing. He must have been the only guy around the studio that day.
I cannot think of something he's less suited for than being a street tough.
They put him in a tight white T-shirt and like
amazing
jeans.
What did he do? Snap at his victim? Like what do you? Come on.
Not believable casting. We'll put it that way.
I feel like I would like listening to him, but I've spent so much time around drag queens. I have so many friends that are drag queens that it's like you get the vibe from like his like very theatrical means of delivering every word, and he's like
But he's great in that role because there were so many people like that, like around those times. It's like, wow, it's a lucky thing you were born in this century and not, not later on.
Yeah, but at the same time, like those kinds of people are definitely the ones that would become priests. You know what I mean? Like,
sure, of course, yeah.
Like the priest and tutor that's just kind of living in someone's house, and it's like there's always that one person that's hired as like either like a chaperone, like he's like the chaperone that chaperones her on her hanging out with Redmond Barry, which I would not want that guy as my chaperone. He's not gonna do anything if something bad happens. Like
I have to imagine Murray Melvin just kind of did that role the way he wanted to, because there's no way you could have written that. Nobody else could possibly have acted like him except him.
Yeah. There's
He's
no
almost
other
like
Murray Melvin.
C-3PO in this movie,
Can we get so on that? That's a
Anthony Daniels as the priest.
Yeah.
No.
There is some people that do not consider this to be a funny movie. I think it is one of the great low-key comedies. Like it's deeply hilarious to me in multiple
Tons of
ways.
funny scenes in it,
and situationally so, which is usually something that I enjoy rather than like the more overt nature of it. But there's so many of these absurd situations, and I think that's notable because Stanley Kubrick, not necessarily known for his comedic sensibility, right? Yeah. But you're dealing with an aristocracy of Europe that's like maintained by interbred families. And like this brazen unearned confidence that again in the epilogue reminds you they all got. Don't worry. Right. But by the same token, it's portrayed in such a way
I mean, that scene where Captain Pottsdorf, Hardy Kruger, finally exposes him and just keeps drawing these idiotic lies out of him.
Yeah,
I mean, it's nobody's laughing, but it's hilarious.
It's hilarious, right? I mean,
the Irish ambassador with the ridiculous name of O'Grady, you know?
I feel like that's gotta be, as much as Tarantino wants to pretend he doesn't like Kubrick, that's gotta be where they got the scene in Inglourious Bastards with the three fingers. Where he puts his fingers like this, but in Germany they would put the fingers like this, and it's like they draw the lies out of him slowly.
Yeah, no, and that's again, it's where his notorious attention to detail, much of the detriment of people that are forced to act in his movies, it works to his credit. That it's meticulous, and again, I think it's maybe his most misunderstood movie, which is crazy to think about. It's the same guy that made Eyes Wide Shut and Clockwork Orange, but this is maybe his most misunderstood movie. Because I feel like people assumed it was something more boring than it was. And the reason why it works is because it isn't. There's nothing boring about it.
They were working for something dark and gritty and provocative. And
that's not what it is. It's like, and let's think about Barry.
It's a movie where the viewer has to do some of the work.
Well, and that's people don't want to do that.
People always react.
Oh God, I hate when people don't want to do that.
You have to engage
But the thing about the titular character, he's like kind of pompous, but not enough to really dislike. He's like good looking, but not like jarringly so. He's somewhat brave here and then, but in a way only where he needs to be. He's got inauspicious beginnings, but he's not in poverty. Like there's all this. It's kind of like middle road for everything, which is what makes it so delicious. That again, the amount of references I've made to so and so is the George Santos. I said George Santos was the Barry Lyndon of the House of Representatives, and I felt very good about that reference.
Poor Forrest, he blocked him.
But I feel that it's we don't see a lot of those characters in like A-list directors like this in period pieces that are so well done. This movie looks badass. Absolutely. It looks so good.
It's an oil painting.
Every frame could be an oil painting. Absolutely.
Viewing it really does feel like that the scene where they're just kind of looking at each painting in the room. I mean, the one in the background, but like viewing it it feels like viewing a series of oil paintings. Where you're like, what's going on?
I'm sorry. I'm not a gadgets guy, but this is a movie where if you can find an opportunity to watch it on like a 4K ultra high def,
like the one that just come out,
big ass like OLED TVs. Oh my God, do
man.
It! Just
they're fine. So the 18th is the 50th anniversary Criterion release of the 4K edition that they're coming out with, which I think they've sold in the past, but this is like their big re-release of it, and it's going to be reopening in a bunch of theaters, I think, too.
It was out of print for a really long time, and it's a new restoration, and originally was going to be this week. they moved it back.
I already got it in the mail. I have it already. So
wow,
they must have done something weird with the dates and the pre-orders because mine arrived on Saturday. So
I think they're trying to do the thing where they roll it out with a bunch of fanfare, where it's like they're like, we're going to show it in theaters and they're going to have a week of that, and then which is longer than some movies get now for a release. I feel like
1 week, okay, digital.
I know, right? Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think there's like a Liam Vitale interview about like the 5.1 surround soundtrack and stuff.
Bunch of cool stuff.
But the thing about the art aesthetic and things like a bunch of cool features, which again, as I've mentioned many times, is if you're interested in that kind of thing, you got to do physical media because certainly ain't going to happen to these streaming services that rush you off to the next thing before the credits are done rolling.
And this one especially. Like I was watching it, I bought it on Amazon Prime so I could have because I was like, I'm gonna watch this like a bunch of times, and like and I have it on VHS as well, and I have this and I have Spartacus on VHS,
nice.
like on the shelf in there.
If you were a real fan, you'd have Betamax, but okay. You want to be a poser and do VHS, that's fine.
And then like I'm sure a quarter second after it's done playing, it's trying to show you Troy or Cold Mountain or something.
Right.
No, trying to show me the Conversation.
Oh really? Okay, well that's
that would be on the dais or something like that.
It's a big vibe shift. Like,
all right, okay. I mean,
I would think any other big, pretty epic, Lawrence of Arabia or something would be more akin to this experience. But Wow.
I was thinking something inherently crappier, like Atonement or something. You know, where it's
but I mean, they give it to you based on like an algorithm. I think like with like either old things you've watched or things you're going to be into on Amazon or whatever, right? So I feel like they're like, well, this is the 70s. The other thing's the 70s. It's like an old movie. They're long. Here, watch the conversation. And the beginning of the conversation, obviously, that flute playing, and it's it's like, oh, this
this guy likes flute. Okay.
The algorithm movies with flutes include. Yeah. How is there an algorithm for flute? But
that's how you get SpongeBob SquarePants after the third man, I guess. Too much.
What about Titanic? The sad Titanic.
My God, that's a good flute movie.
It's a good flute. Big flute energy in this episode.
Yeah, you're pro flute here. If you're a flute player, we support you.
Exactly.
All those safe space
there. If you're a flautist, I think your year was the Titanic year.
Yeah,
that's gotta be like the year you're like.
Oh, and it's over now. Just like all those poor unemployed saxophonists after 80s movies were done.
Oh God,
Sandy and Breadlines.
They had a great resurgence during the Bill Clinton era, where they got to be like,
that's true. Like, yeah,
or like the xylophone for some of the '70s stuff too, because I remember like people playing like the xylophone and stuff like that to be very jazzy.
Yeah, people love xylophone chase scenes in the '70s, where it's like,
I mean, if you're going to have two characters running, what better to play than a xylophone?
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, it's just like a Tom and Jerry cartoon. Just wired that into our brains.
Or they really like it if somebody's like on heroin and they're just kind of nodding out. It's like, it's like
Heroin by the Velvet Underground. That's much better.
But it's
made the connection between xylophone and heroin, but.
They're trying to do like a it's one of those things where like you're at the bar and then someone's like, you want to try this heroin, you try it for the first time, and then they're doing this and then it time jumps like the next day and you're like freaking out or whatever. That I feel like they do that in a lot of movies. With the xylophone, they like doing that with jazz too, where it's like
I want to know what bar Forrest is going to that somebody comes up.
It's like when I clean.
Would you like to try heroin? And then there's a xylophone.
Here's the thing. I clean for the man who invented the Commodore 64 computer, and they're
what a brag.
I know they're big. Yeah, Charlie.
He's got a few bucks.
Yeah, and he and his wife are big, like left-leaning folks. They're cool people, but they like listening to NPR. So they have like the jazz station on. So I hear xylophone and saxophone. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh yeah, it's like guitars never were invented. They're running around these broken
xylophone, saxophone, cellular phone.
You know how some people like can't taste cilantro? Maybe I can't hear xylophone because I don't hear that much xylophone at any time.
You gotta go to those people that I don't see color. I don't hear xylophone.
The man is such a genius. He made his house a smart house, so when it's like a certain degree, the house would speak. It's hot as hell outside right now.
It's a smart house. It's a smart house. Even knows how to play xylophone.
Yes.
No,
it's a smart house, but doesn't have good career choices.
Well, I was telling them actually about because they like watching movies too, and I recommend this podcast. I'm like, we're going.
Don't recommend this episode. We're lighting them up like a Christmas tree.
But like I was talking about, like they were asking like some of the movies, and I'm like, yeah, we're gonna be going over Barry Lyndon eventually, and we're gonna go over Jaws and all that because they always have like a list of like movies they've watched or haven't watched on all the different streaming stuff. So I was like, yeah, we're going over Barry Lyndon. They're like, I remember that movie.
Yeah, there you go.
It's crazy that this movie and Jaws are the same year, right? Like,
yeah,
and they're both 50 now. Like,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Oh, 3D. We all remember that masterpiece, right?
I feel like Jaws would be
the best way too long movie I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I can sit through a 4-hour movie. Most of them you feel after you've watched it a couple times, like this doesn't really need to be that long. Like everyone needs an editor. This movie, I'm fine with it. Just keep going. What happens to him in the future. I want to know.
What's he doing now? I don't know. Let's find this lovable scamp's next adventure. Yeah,
it's been
losing money gambling.
It's been hard to get to a point where I would sit down and watch the entirety of Spartacus. But as I said, I watched the full Spartacus, which is 3 hours and 17 minutes by the end of it. I mean, but they also have like a 10-minute break, which is like an intermission, which I love. Yeah,
bring those back.
Yeah,
but like Spartacus is another movie where it's so much that they're throwing at you that it feels like that it works for that 3 hours.
Yeah. So 2 years ago, I wrote a book that nobody has read because it didn't get published. I couldn't get anybody interested in it, but it was about air conditioning, basically.
Oh.
And one of the reasons Hollywood used to be so big on really, really long movies is people just wanted to sit in the theater. You know?
Yeah,
So
they wanted to be out of the heat.
Right,
Yeah.
and you said, I've got a 3.5 hour costume epic, or this movie's going to be 4 hours. They said, fine, that's
This
great.
is how we bring people back into the cinema.
This is how I saw Mallrats and Halloween 6 twice. I saw Duel Interrupted 35 times
Halloween
one
6.
summer because the Dollar Theater had it and I didn't have air conditioning. So every fucking day I went and watched Girl Interrupted because they had one screen and that's all it was. I hate that movie. I hate it with passion. But oh my God, it was so nice to sit in the theater.
It was nice to be in the air conditioning.
This is why my thermostat's at 68 all year round.
You get like I don't know, you get like
69 just for the humor value, but you know. I feel like now with streaming TV, we're getting back to that because if you tell somebody you have this giant sprawling story, they're not saying no, they're saying, okay, great, it'll be 10 episodes.
Yeah, break it up into 10 episodes. Exactly.
Right,
That's
just make it long.
But they're still learning. They're still learning. There's a lot of movies that like I mean we've referenced it like a bunch of times where we've had movies where like we feel like this could have been a streaming series and like it would have worked better as a stream. Like so they're still slowly learning that lesson. Like,
it's a top 20 movie of all time for me, but Until the End of the World, if it had been made at any other time, would be a streaming series.
Yeah,
absolutely. There's no question about it, and probably would have been better regarded for it.
There's also a streaming series where it's way too long and they need an editor to tell them, no, this is only a 90-minute movie.
Yeah.
You
well,
know?
that's almost every movie made. You know
exactly.
But
I was just thinking because of Spartacus, I was thinking about like you go to the movies in like 1960 or 1958 or whatever, and you really need air conditioning, and you have to sit through Exodus. So it's like 3.5 hours just learning the story of Israel, and you're like, I guess
Yeah.
Israel.
I forgot.
At least it's long.
You know, Kubrick's movies can get kind of long. I forgot. What was the running time for Barry Lyndon?
They're all extremely long.
It's
3 hours and 40
3 hours
minutes.
and change. Yeah.
Because I remember when I was like dog sitting when I was watching it, and I was like, okay, we're all gonna just relax. We're not gonna do anything today. It's raining out, storming out. Let's all cuddle together, doggies, and watch Barry Lyndon.
So my wife falls asleep during movies, and like early in our relationship, she knew Barry Lyndon was one of my favorite movies, and she tells this story now, like retroactively, how much she had to psych herself up to stay awake for the whole thing because she just does not do a slow 3.5 hour movie without falling asleep. She was like, I don't want to insult you by falling asleep in your favorite movie. So
my mom can't even go through a simple movie that's not even 2 hours long. I mean, what like with Barbie and all that, I'm like, she's like, I pause, I gotta take a smoke break. I'm like, you cannot smoke for like, you can't take a break for like 2 hours. No. Okay. You're just ruining the flow of the movie.
It's a Crank 2 4 times for that reason. Wow.
Sick, Rick, that is your girl in
I was gonna say
Crank 2, also Crank. You know.
Thank you for your service. Yeah.
Girl interrupted. Boy, I wish.
All right. So this normally I would say this for the after party, but Barry Lyndon with Jason Statham in the Ryan O'Neal role.
Boy.
Oh my God.
It might actually work not better, but it's just he actually has the accent. Unlike Ryan O'Neal, who you can tell is trying to do an Irish accent.
Yeah, it's not great.
Makes it perfect.
Yeah,
you know?
You can see
asshole who's trying to do fake everything. You know?
Yeah. Jason Statham as John Quinn in the beginning.
Imagine Jason Statham as Tommy Shelby, Peaky Blinders. Oh wait, that would have happened.
Jason Statham as Reverend Grunt.
He's like, boy, I got a prayer for you guys. Don't worry about it. The mom trying to push him out of the house. The mom's like, you're going to have to leave. He's like, boy, you can't keep me out of here, mate.
No, Jason Statham just off the horse in the robbery scene and just beating the living shit out.
He just starts like spin kicking dudes.
Yeah, just jump kicking Captain Feeney.
Boy, you can't steal my money real quick. I'm gonna have something to say about that.
I think you judge your mother too harshly. Wouldn't have gone down like that if I was there.
My name's Grogan. Joe Grogan.
Joe Grogan, there it is.
Worst possible casting. I'd pay to see it, but I wouldn't enjoy it.
We have fun here. We have a lot of fun here.
It's surprisingly not tense, this movie,
Yeah,
mood wise. Like it is a vibe, but there's for as much stuff as like, especially including, I guess we haven't really discussed it other than the fact that it wasn't in the book, the duel, which again is something where when
final duel is tense a little.
That's probably the only thing that's like remotely tense though.
Yeah,
because otherwise it's just running around, like playing The Sims.
Like I said, the foreshadowing is so like heavy-handed. You just know what trajectory every character is going to take, so it takes a lot of the drama out.
The narrator kind of tells
ultimately why they felt like they had to add the duel scene. There's got to be one like edge of your seat moment.
The narrator was like, this is going to be his downfall. His downfall is coming up soon. Don't get too attached. His downfall is coming up next after these advertisements.
Well, but I think it also is the case where there's been a lot of fiction that has shown duels and like made them out to be really cool. Like, oh, they're so cool. Remember when things were honorable, this and that. This duel does not look cool, especially when Lord Bullington like has a premature discharge.
Yeah, and then he barfed because he's so scared, and everybody's trying to avoid looking at him. And
there's three types of duels in this movie, and each one is different. Because the first duel that he gets into is one of the classic ones where you both lower your guns at the same time and then fire. The second duel is a sword duel, which is slightly different because it's like whoever wins the sword duel gets the money. And then the third duel is a very different one where it's you take a shot, and then if the person misses, they take a shot.
Meaning that your fate is largely hinging upon a coin flip.
Yeah.
Although in most duels historically, I mean, they weren't actually trying to hurt each other. They just wanted to, show off a little bit. They generally shot in the general direction. And that's what the point of having a second was, so that you could all sit at the bar afterwards. Oh my God, you should have seen how brave he was. He's so brave, It's kind of like...
Right, exactly, yeah.
Now I'm thinking about No Berries for Old Lyndon. And it's, he's like, how much money you ever won in a duel? And he's
right, exactly.
All right, so Barry Lyndon, but it's Tom Hardy doing the Bane voice the whole time.
What do you mean? You were made by. I was made by the duels.
I will cook you to death.
I didn't get shot in the leg the first time, but until I was but 14.
I'm looking for a lordship.
Have you received satisfaction? I see that working on some level.
Duels are very weird because they're like obviously. I mean, the Hamilton and Burr thing is a perfect example for sure, because there's the classic thing where you're not actually supposed to hit and kill the person, right? Like we don't expect that to happen, so you're supposed to fire like this, but then fire just enough in the air as like a marksman that you hit maybe the person's shoulder, but like you don't kill the person. Like that was. They're like, listen, you're supposed. Everyone's supposed to say at the end of this, someone's going to die, but no one really actually dies from this, which is why it was such a big deal when Hamilton got shot. Yeah. Because it was like he aimed for the slightly above Burr's head, and then Burr was just like, "I'm angry, like I'm gonna shoot you in the chest." Like,
plus the guns weren't very accurate back then, so if you aimed a little bit off, you could very well hit somebody. I mean, they weren't rifled, so
tell that to Barvis Collins when he shot his uncle Jeremiah in the 1795 storyline of Dark Shadows.
Well, if I ever see him, I'll tell him. I don't know. but there was like that kind of duel back then, and then there was also like the Andrew Jackson kind of duel a little bit later, where it's like people actually did just aim for each other. Like there's like, I guess it's regional, at least in the United States. There was like the very gentry kind of dueling where it was like you're not supposed to actually hit the person. No one actually expected at the end of it you're gonna die. They expected like, oh, maybe you get hit in the shoulder, maybe you get hit in the arm, like a worst case scenario. But then there's the version of it that they were doing like in the West, where it's like, no, like they were aiming for each other, and then people would have like 3 different times they'd gotten shot, and then the like lead would still be inside of them, and they'd be getting slow lead poisoning for the rest of their lives.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess it depended on what the duel was over. Is it an insult? Yeah, then you just want to prove you can stand there and be shot at and not flinch. But
or
like,
love.
Yeah, I mean, if you really fucked somebody over, I mean, and the duel was like, no, I want to kill you in this duel. I'm sure that happened too.
Yeah. But I mean, that's like that is why the Hamilton and Burr thing ended the way it did, because Hamilton was like not actually wanting, and Burr was like, no, I want to kill this motherfucker. Like, He's
Forrest,
insulting
I'm
my
not
honor.
comfortable hearing about this. Could you kind of sing rap it to me instead?
Oh, it's some kind of duel, and it's cool, and everybody's going to school.
I will not discuss this with you amelodically. You absolutely have to sing
Elon, I got an idea for you.
I like that is like a big. So in this movie, right? Like that is why part of the reason why he's like, I'm not going to kill my step. Like my life would be fucked if I killed my stepson. So he's like, oh, I'm trying to teach him a lesson. I know that he's going to be like, he threw up a bunch and so I'm going to shoot at the ground and then be like, we did it, we dueled. And then he was like, no, I'm not satisfied. That was not satisfying at all. I don't even have a meal in my stomach anymore. I want to shoot my stepdad.
I always interpreted it as him doing that thing that people who are really assholes always think they can do, where you just be a shit for like 40 years and then with one act you kind of redeem everything.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Oh, well,
and then all the liberals love you.
Right. So I'm a good guy now, right? I could have killed you in this duel, but I didn't. So all's forgiven. And he's just like, no, actually, you ruined my whole life.
Did you found the Project for a New American Century? Yes, but I don't like Trump. Great. We love you.
Awesome. It's also the paternal aspect of it, right? Like, I'm going to teach this kid a lesson. And he throws up a bunch on the ground. And it's like, this kid's clearly scared shitless. He's shaking and everything. He's clearly going to get taught a lesson, and he's never going to fuck with me again because, we stood here and I did the thing. And then the kid's like, yeah, that's not satisfying. I wanted to shoot this guy. And then he turns around and shoots him. And it's like such a, but the mindsets of the two things, I think,
Look
like
what
that kid is also, kid is his meal ticket. Like if he killed that kid, his meal ticket would have been over. And then his meal ticket still was over. But it's like his wife wouldn't have stayed with him.
Yeah, that's true. He looks so surprised when he shoots him, though. I mean, he's got a lot of emotions coming out of him. But I've always wondered watching it, is it supposed to be ambiguous? Was he really trying to hit him or not? Because
did he realize, what he had done?
I thought he was.
Yeah.
I completely thought because he has this like look of, it's like, I'm not sad, and then he has this look on his face that's like, oh, I don't think he necessarily was trying to kill him, but I think he definitely was trying to hit him.
Yeah. And that's what he got.
Because he almost will break out in like a, oh yeah, woo, like because he goes back and he's like relieved.
But the other people in the cathedral, they know. They're like, we just saw you throwing up and crying like a little wuss 5 minutes ago. So don't get too out of control here.
He was crying like a bitch. I saw him. He threw up on the ground.
Your podcast, I didn't want to say it.
I mean, everybody. Look, there's many moments.
He was crying like a dog.
Earlier on, it could have been like,
"Sir, I'm a British officer,"
and like like maybe that would have solved the problem. Like who knows?
There you go.
I love the character of the cowardly British officer, where you're like, what's this guy like for the first little while because he's so prissy, and then it's like, what's this guy's deal? And he has the funniest thing where they're dancing, and he's like,
yeah. The dancing scene is again just high comedy. I
mean, his cousin, he's getting all upset over his cousin. Who's like, he's flirting with everyone, and there's the Joe Grogan line where he's like, she's been throwing herself at any man who will. And then like a detail the second time that I noticed, which I don't know why I didn't notice it the first time, but. In that opening scene where where it's his cousin, he pulls out a different handkerchief that she gave to him because it's like she's going around just giving every guy a handkerchief and doing the thing where it's like they're playing cards and then she puts it in there and it's like you realize like, oh, she's been doing that all around town.
So I actually didn't pick up until you pointed this out right now. I mean, that's the second time in this movie that they feel like the narrator needs to just call a woman a slut. Because basically, after he has the scene with the German woman and he says her castle's been stormed many times before, I'm like, oh, that was a low blow. You didn't really need to throw that in.
Yeah, she's so nice.
Yeah,
she has
super nice.
She has sex with him and he goes on his way. Like, and she doesn't give him she's not like the other lady where it's like she's making a big deal about it and he's all upset. It's just like she's like, all right, have fun out in the hills. Goodbye. I'll miss you. Auf Wiedersehen.
Maybe Thackeray didn't have a high opinion of women. I don't know, but that is two different times in the movie he felt necessary to kind of call somebody a floozy. But
yeah, well, then Lady Lyndon is kind of like almost like a perfect character. Like, I mean, she's like she's weak, I guess, in the sense of she lets him get away with whatever, but she's kind of like angelic in a way. Like she never does anything that's
Yeah, when she's in that bathtub, they could put a halo on her and it would fit right in.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that's a lot of that is, like there's a lot to say there as well, but that's a whole separate podcast in and of itself. Of course, the thing to remember with all of this is that Letterbox, of course, is a place for film lovers to talk at with and to each other about the films that they love. Maybe the films that they didn't love, maybe the films that they noted accurately, that every scene could be a painting. And of course, it's a bottom-up democracy. Everyone gets to have their say, not just the Siskel's and Eberts of the world. Everyone gets to chime and opine about the movies that they love. And maybe everybody gets to do this, and these are collected weekly by yours truly.
Vamp for a second, because they didn't all upload. I'm trying to upload them all now.
This whole intro is vamping Forrest, but I can do it less efficiently if you want. Everybody gets to have their say. It's about democracy, right? Much like the setting of this movie absolutely is not in any way, shape, or form. This is not a gerontocracy. It's not a theocracy. Certainly not any other ocracy of any kind. Everybody gets to have their opinion, incorrect though it may be. And everybody.
Charles is kind of like a Democratic senator if you watch the movie and you try to make some modern politics connections there.
Sure,
this guy would be a spring chicken in the Senate,
Exactly. He'd be a young, youthful face for sure.
Moments from death and a perfect Democrat. Yeah.
So of course that's Letterboxd, and every week I collect all these together for Forrest and the panel to react to, so that we can laugh at, with, and to all of these various opinings about the movies that we are covering on this very show. Okay. And that is what this bit is. This bit is the Letterbox one-liners, and that is what it is called.
So you're vamping.
Now I'm definitely vamping. Here we go. Let's roll them. All right. If I lived in the 1700s, I too would just go on absolutely every side mission imaginable.
It's like almost it's predating video games, but it feels like an almost video game RPG kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, like Conan pointed out earlier, he just went where the wind blew him. He was just an opportunist, and he saw something, and he was like, okay, I'll do this now. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Be a professional gambler? Sure, why the hell?
Yeah, sounds all right.
Well, because he gets like the whole thing with the Chevalier, right? Like he's kind of just being pushed along on a tide of a tide of fate, I guess, in a weird way. I mean, his fate is just that his legs get blown off, but it's like he's kind of being pushed along where things go. So the first thing he has is he wants to leave the army, but he can't leave the army, and then he gets into that whole situation, and it's like he meets the Chevalier, and then he instantly has that emotional reaction to it, and then the Chevalier is like, "You want to just gamble? Like we can just."
The life and times of a little stinker.
Life.
Ain't I a stinker? Ain't I a stinker?
I feel like all your British accents are kind of just Michael Caine doing different characters.
Michael Caine.
You're doing a Michael Caine doing other things. I'm loving it.
I'm Michael Caine.
You know what, a stinker. Oh, a stinker over here.
Say she was only 15. There you go.
She was only 15.
There you go. The Get Carter promo.
He came, he saw, he squandered. All in 35mm oil painting.
Excuse me, this was shot in 70mm. Wow. How embarrassing, Brian. Or AN or whatever. Yeah.
Whatever to log in a letterbox to correct.
Yeah.
How dare you? There you go. Crazy ass moments in white boy history.
There you go.
That is.
That is a former guest of the show, Marina.
Yeah,
actually, with that banger. So there you go.
It is crazy moments in white boy history. They don't make white boys like that anymore. you could see a version of Barry Lyndon if they ever remade it with like Timothée Chalamet. I could see
yeah.
I could see Timothée Chalamet playing Barry Lyndon.
Don't give me ideas, Forrest.
It would make a good fuckboy, though. You're right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That man horny as hell.
But he's horny, but he's like horny and like when it actually is women that he's trying to like he's always trying to social climb. He's like horny to social climb.
He's horny for social status, I think, more than he's even horny for women.
Half the time I wanted to give Barry a hug. The other half I wanted to smack some sense into him. Dude is more dramatic than a Kardashian. Like, my guy, maybe don't piss off every rich person you meet.
Well,
I mean, it's hard to argue with that.
He could. There's a version of this movie where he didn't settle down with Lady Lyndon, and he just kept scamming rich people. That it was like, listen, go ahead, piss off every rich person you meet. They're a dime a dozen around Europe, right? You're going from European capital to European capital. But the second you want to settle down with one of them, stop pissing off the rich people around you.
I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was so easy to disappear back then. You could keep pissing people off indefinitely if you just got on a horse and left afterwards. But he stopped, and that was his mistake.
I mean, people got away with doing that town to town. Like literally, you're in a town and you're like selling a bunch of elixir to people or whatever, and you sleep down the next day. He also could have fled.
I could go for some patent medicines right now, Forrest.
But he could have fled, and like he didn't flee. Like he stayed. He stayed, and he was like, "I'm gonna duel my stepson," and that's where he fucked up. Really, he could have just left.
Yeah. Could always just leave. This is like an 18th century version of a 3-hour documentary on a downfall of your favorite old school YouTuber.
Oh my God, that is
I don't
so
think
true.
Barry Lyndon would have been a good YouTuber at all, personally, but I see what they're going for there.
Podcaster.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. How did they think he was going to play a Hungarian? They're like, listen, if he asks, this is another Irish person with a brogue, and if he asks, you're Hungarian.
Right.
Yeah.
I come from the hills of Hungary. Don't fuck around with me. Well, I guess
would I believe that he had weakness in the loins. This man does not have weakness in the loins. For all of his failings, that is not one of them.
Maybe in the brain,
guess,
but
yeah. Well, I guess people believed enough that Keanu Reeves and Bram Stoker's Dracula was British.
That is just an acting performance unlike any other. Nothing will ever be like that.
Budapest.
Need a bathtub that's also a bed.
I like how Derek watched an almost 4-hour period piece, and that was his takeaway. That's pure and wonderful.
Yeah. You know what? I saw that. I was like, huh. All right. Yeah. You know, respect.
It's an awesome idea.
Yeah. Absolutely. Never before has there been a greater narrative illustrating the consequences of wanting to bang your cousin.
and it never stops. Once he doesn't bang his cousin, once he wants to bang his cousin, everything bad happens from there.
She just can't pull herself away from Leonard Rossiter. After she saw him dance, she was just like, it was just like a flood. She couldn't control it.
He has a cool angular face, and then every time he like pushes his face that way, it's like, I don't know, it cracks me up. So maybe I was falling for John Quinn's charms.
She's horny for cowardice, maybe.
I love the line where he's like because he's British. He's like I'll never get used to your Irish ways. And then the cousin goes, well, maybe we can adopt English ones. Like, it's like, no, you can't.
I love when he gets the wine thrown in his face, and all he can do is sputter on about being an Englishman. It's like, dude, but then throw the wine back, punch somebody, do something cool. Come on.
Then when you think, like, I didn't think about this right now. The end of the movie, right? The last hour and a half is just Barry Lyndon attempting to adopt English ways, and he doesn't do it. He can't do it.
Yeah, it's true.
So it wouldn't have been as easy as his cousin would have thought. We can adopt your English ones.
I like how the cousins are named Mick and Uric. I mean, God, you know you're in
Sir Lyndon, a message has come through. I'm afraid your son, he has a fuck-ass bob and microbangs. I'm so sorry, sir.
Tom Hardy doing the Bane voice, reading that would be perfect.
Sir Lyndon, a message has come through. I'm afraid your son, he has a fuck-ass bob and microbangs. I'm so sorry, sir.
There are some hairstyles in this movie, no doubt.
Yes.
That kid is such a good, like, rich kid too. He's like, bully, is that more pencil?
Yeah, exactly.
He's dying, and he's like, mother, father, am I going to heaven? Am I dying?
Ride that goddamn horse. Anyway, those are Letterbox one-liners for Barry Lyndon. Please follow the show at our Letterbox HQ account at Movie Night Extra, where we have all the great movies that we cover for this show, as well as attendant short form content, clips, all that great stuff. You can follow us on the Popular Letterbox platform over there. Please do so. Sir Charles Cuck to Death, your host, Forrest Miller, at Always Flacco over there. You can see him in Spartacus recently. I think you're logging a bunch of other stuff, not just on this that we do on this show, but just your general cinematic voyages, if you will. I, of course, demand satisfaction. I am at Conan Neutron. You can find me highbrow, midbrow, Populous Fair. Follow me through Criterion Challenge. I am at par right now, which is amazing because that's, discounting like 6-7 weeks of touring. So I'm doing okay. So follow me along for the Criterion Challenge and everything else. Covering lots of new releases this year. So there's been a lot of new ones there as well. Kristina, 1776, question mark. She's at Kristina on Letterbox, logging stuff much more than she used to, which
get ready for Superman.
I was going to say, there's probably a Superman log coming up too. I'm actually looking forward to that. So
Thursday.
I got my ticket already to see it on Saturday, which has been a while since I bought an advance ticket for anything, frankly.
Yeah.
So
I got
I assume you've all seen the ridiculous attempt by the right to frame the Superman movie as being.
Can you believe he's an immigrant, for
God?
God's sakes? I can't believe. I mean, not only is he from a different country, but he's from a different planet.
The most famous immigrant in fiction. Yes, we understand. He comes from another planet.
This gave me like an idea, though, and I mean, maybe I'll talk about it, I guess, more in the after party. But I had this idea for a version of Superman where Lex Luthor is taking over America, but they've deported Superman, and he's in Seacon, and they have to actually go down to El Salvador and try to get Superman out of there, but they've lost him. So they're trying to find Superman to get him out of deportation.
All right. Yeah, we'll workshop this.
Yeah.
We'll work it out a little later.
Play now before everyone forgets what half those things you just said were.
Too late. Ed, I don't think you're on Letterbox. I'm not going to shout out your Letterbox handle. But we are going to hit it with the plugs right about now.
If you're watching us on YouTube, please like and subscribe, and then hit the bell to get notified whenever we're streaming. And we'd humbly request that you watch the video to the end, because it helps us with the algorithm and helps more film fans to discover the show. We're also monetized. If you want to get your chat questions definitely read on stream, you can always send us a super chat, which will help us keep the show going. Every cent helps. If you're watching on Twitch, you can gift us a free sub on Amazon Prime with your Prime membership, but getting subs on Twitch is always appreciated, and it helps to follow us on there as well. We also have an audio feed, which is available wherever you download podcasts, if you prefer to listen to podcasts rather than watch the stream. That's updated usually the same day we stream, but watching on YouTube and Twitch is the best way to get the show first, live as it happens. If you want to support us with a monthly donation and get access to all of our after parties forever, which go patron only after we do them, you can become a patron at patreon.com/movie night extra. Link is in the description for that. It really helps us keep the show going since we do have some expenses to make this happen. We also have a Discord community. Link is in the description for that. We sometimes watch movies we cover on there. We get into conversations about everything from film to TV shows to related podcasts. We even have a Discord channel for memes. It's really fun on there. You can find us on all the social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, and Threads. You connect with us on all of those. Talk to us. We'd love to hear from you. Lastly, we recently made a TikTok at Movie Night Extra where we're putting up short form clips from the episodes. Okay, passing this to Conan so he can tell you about his music and this week's Protonic Reversal. Conan, who's on Protonic this week?
Yes, y'all. So we got Tim Jones and Jeff Liebershire of Cheer Accident tomorrow. So that should be great. Looking forward to that. It's a new Cheer Accident record. Some people feel it is amongst their best. I am one of those people. Looking forward to that. Tim's, of course, been on the show before. Should be a great time. They got some touring coming up. John Fine of Bitch Magnet and many others, including the new band We Contain Multitudes, coming up next week as well. Ray Washam of Scratch Acid coming back for, I think, the longest break of time that I've ever done on Protonic Reversal in the 11 years of it being a show. So that should be very exciting. And 3 other things that are coming. Oh, Steve Von Til of Neurosis in August coming back, which should be great. There's other stuff as well. I can't say anything that's not on the schedule, but protonicreversal.com for the archives. Always free, no ads, no sponsors, no kidding. Patreon.com/Protoncontroversial, $1 a month for advance access. I've been rerunning select old episodes on the Twitch channel, which I kind of forget exists, frankly. So if you want to follow on Twitch, you can see those there as opposed to just on a podcast app or on YouTube. I don't know. I don't get it. It's fine. It's whatever. But it's all there. Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends, Green Bay UFO Festival in Green Bay, Wisconsin, coming up at the end of the month. And a show in Kenosha at the Port with Castle Black. 2 tours, one going out to Seattle for Rat City Recon in October. Dates for that being announced soon, so Midwest and Pacific Northwest. And then one in the South. And looping back up for, as I mentioned, the Jesus Lizard show in Milwaukee, which I'm very excited about. So that should be
so great.
That should be pretty goddamn good. I hesitate to say. By the way, David Yao is in the remake redo of The Toxic Avenger. David Yao, the Jesus Lizard, who was also in Under the Silver Lake. It was in I Don't Feel at Home. I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. It's a long title. I don't feel comfortable saying that long-ass title, if you know what I mean. Anyway. Yeah, so all that's happening. And yeah, just follow me for all that. No, nothing else I can mention right now. That's enough. Kristina, what do you got?
Yeah, well, we are still doing the thing, still streaming on Twitch and still doing the space. I just got done doing like a almost 3-hour show because Jeff, Good Morning Comrade, was actually live talking about Superman and I was hanging backstage. He's like, come on. And then Alex of Devil's Advocate Productions, who comes on after me, was like, let me get into it. So the three of us were talking about comic book stuff for like 3 hours. And then we let Carlos of the Difficult Truth come on because I'm like, I got to get ready for this podcast. So that was a lot of fun. And we're still watching Dark Shadows on Shadow Saturdays. Barnabas is alive. Of course he is. Can't kill him. I'm going to be doing a bit of a streamathon this weekend. So we're going to be watching a lot of Dark Shadows on Saturday for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Getting ready. I'm probably going to be on a Power Report this Thursday. And I'm going to wear something that's going to distract Dan. Because if you saw my selfie on Twitter, you know exactly what outfit I'm talking about. Forrest knows. Anyway,
are you talking about Chekhov's boobs?
Hey, the BBB we need is big, bountiful boobs. Okay, I'm just saying.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah,
you definitely came up with that during when I was on Power Report when you jumped into the chat. I don't know if that was the first time you came up with that, but we were talking about BBB, like big, bountiful boobs. I was like, yeah, you're here. You're in
And also too, last week on on this space, they aired the first Sam Cedar episode of Moon Knight Extravaganza, where everyone was like, "Wow, Kristina, your Twitch community was really horny," and I'm like, "Yes, they were." I'm so sorry, guys.
Yeah. They really the loins there. Strength in the loins through the whole Twitch community.
We really got to get Sam Cedar on for a third episode. We need to get a bump.
Hey, me informing him that Hassan refers to him as a real uncle has paid off because he was in the studio for the first time ever. So, yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna be doing
okay.
Also, the Tuesday, next Tuesday on the space, I'm gonna be interviewing Chris Aruja, who is running against Brad Sherman in California's 32nd district.
Oh, very good.
Yep. One of my friend is working on like so many different progressive campaigns that she's like, here's all these people. I'm like, okay, because they want to make this space like part of their legit media tours, which is pretty awesome. And then afterwards, Alex and I are going to do our Superman review before Moon Knight Extravaganza when we do Superman.
So you're gonna have it's a review cucking then is what that is. Okay, fair.
Yeah, I can't. He was like, I'd rather know that I'm being you have a review beforehand and have to be cucked and find out about it later.
All right, you have nothing left to say by the time we do the show, but that's fine.
She'll have stuff left to say.
You'll be amazed. You'll be amazed.
she'll say, I do like the color blue of
right, exactly.
I'm blue, and if it was green, I would die. You know, like
my favorite part of the movie Superman was the color blue. There was
right.
great use of it.
What is Goodfellas when he's describing this dog goes one way, this dog goes
right. And this guy's in the middle being like, "What do you want from me?"
Yeah, but he's got that brilliant blue suit on.
This guy's wearing blue. This guy's wearing blue. So what?
He's like, "What? You got kryptonite? What do you want from me?"
Yeah, exactly. There it is. Great. Glad we got it out there.
Yeah.
Someone in the comments suggested a title like "Superman Gets Cucked with Kryptonite." So you can workshop that.
Superman has to fly out to hymns or whatever, and he's like,
"What's with Kryptonite after party title?"
Someone had because someone had a kryptonite condom.
I'll be streaming after the after party tonight, guys. So stick around.
I think it's a reference from a Kevin Smith movie where he's like, if Superman had a kryptonite condom, would it work?
We'd like to welcome all our new fans from the Criterion Collection to this segment.
But Ed, what do you got going on?
I'm working on another book. My agent just started sending it out today, of all things. It's about a group from the 1970s called the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. So topical.
LFP.
I expect it to maybe catch some people's eyes when we send it and try to get somebody to agree to put it out. So
cool.
That's awesome.
Been consuming most of my time.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're still around, right? They're still going.
They're not what they. I mean, like in name only. You know, like when a chain store just kind of failed. Like there's still one Foot Locker somewhere, but you know, it's not really Foot Locker anymore. Kind of like that. But I
feel like
won't
that's
compare them to Foot Locker in the book, though. That's not part of the strategy.
Someone's like, oh, I'll pick up your book, but can you compare them to Foot Locker?
Yeah.
Wow.
We're looking maybe that would make it more appealing.
It's like when you get off-brand kicks. Footbrand. Yeah, but Ed, do you have final thoughts about Barry Lyndon, or how I stopped wearing and learned to love the Duel?
Learn to love cucking Sir Charles. Favorite thought. It's my favorite movie. It's just one of the most visually beautiful and stunning things I think I've ever seen. And every time I watch it, I find something else to look at. And part of me wishes that we could have more movies that had this kind of slow pace, and we're just able to appreciate things. Also, if we saw more of it, if we got too much of it, would we enjoy it on the same level we do now? I don't know. Maybe it's great because it's rare and precious to just have a movie where pacing is this slow and we can just sort of feel like we're being taken for that walk.
So somewhere in the world, though, once I saw the Timothée Chalamet thing, the little beeper went on. Beep, 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 beep.
I always felt like Jude Law when he was younger, and Jude Law would be a good Barry Lyndon, but I'm sure a lot of actors could pull it off. They're talented.
Yeah. I could see a good Jude Law version of this. He should be in the, if they do make the Timothée Chalamet one, he should be one of the nobles in that too. Like he could, absolutely. He could just be in anything. Kristina,
we're already casting, and we haven't even signed anything yet. Jesus,
we doing
it. I love it.
Give away these ideas for free. This is gold.
We do it constantly on this show.
This is a free idea giveaway extravaganza.
It really is. It
really is. Say we had $250,000 and we could hire A-list actors. Which ones would we hire? Totally productive thing. We just don't want to give away too many of the good ideas, though.
It's a thought experiment.
It's 4 years of giving out too many ideas.
Yeah, exactly. It's 4-year anniversary of it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me on, though.
Oh yeah,
thanks for coming on.
Just the opportunity to talk to anybody else about this movie makes me so happy. But most people don't want to hear it. You walk into a bar and say Barry Lyndon.
The thing about Barry Lyndon is get this man out of here.
Yeah. So what if he used the Bane voice? And no, they're not in.
This is a Quentin Tarantino bar, sir. Go have your papers elsewhere.
And the bartender is still mad about the violence in Clockwork Orange. So he didn't stand by
really
it.
Closing time.
The bartender is Reverend Runt. Plot twist.
Hey, whoa, there it is. There it is, everybody.
Like, well, then it would work that she's like, actually, you're the one making Lady Lyndon's worse because he just keeps pouring her drinks. Like, actually, you're the one making her Lady Lyndon worse. But
nobody in this movie needed more drinks poured for them. Definitely,
right? He just wants that hot goss. He's a messy bitch that lives with the drama.
There is something so like beautiful about the pile of drunk guy scene, like when he
when they're just around,
challenges him to a duel, and it is like an oil painting, and he walks up to them, and it's like even like these sloppy drunk British and Irish people that are just in like a weird pile. It's like even they are beautiful.
Yeah.
But Kristina,
I'm sorry.
Oh, no. If you got anything else, I was
just in those scenes, the one you're talking about. It's so sexless. The nudity in this movie, I completely forgot until you pointed out. I was like, oh yeah, there's Kubrick in that scene. But it's so irrelevant to everything that's going on in his mind and in his world. He's just not interested. There's people making out with, I don't know if they're sex workers or what they were or whatever in the background, and he's elsewhere, and that's. Yeah, it's a good catch. Forrest, you're good at this. I mean, you're all good at this, but
thanks.
We want to kiss up to the boss. So there you go. If he's going to grant you a lordship, you need to make sure you get bread's butter to the right side. Yeah.
Peerage, get your peerage, yeah. But Kristina, do you got final thoughts besides big bountiful boobs?
Yeah, well, I wasn't gonna say that, but now you put it in my head. So big bountiful boobs, 2020, whatever.
I'm receiving some satisfaction.
So this is probably one of Kubrick's like underrated classics. I feel like it should like in a sea of Eyes Wide Shut, The Shining, Clockwork Orange, 2001. Like people forget that this movie exists. And hopefully this episode brings this film to light and more people are interested in seeing it. So
it would also probably be the worst one to watch on an iPhone.
Yes. the way Kubrick remember Ravana was 2000. Yeah, that was the cracked up iPhone.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to reference.
Great. Founding member of Devo being puzzled by that. What a time to be alive.
Yeah.
This has been quite a show, and we're gonna reminisce about it in the after party. Conan, let's hear them. They're going to be great. Final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, this, again, every frame a painting in this beautiful, gorgeous movie. It is a vibes movie, but the vibes are very cold. And I find that interesting because there are not a lot of movies like that. And moreover, there aren't a lot of movies like that work and that work for entertainment value. This is definitely on the Mount Rushmore of grifter movies, for sure. Even the comeuppance matters less than the side quests we had along the way. And I think it is one of the most underseen and certainly misunderstood, as I agree, of Kubrick's works. And I think it's a fascinating discussion. And I don't think we'll ever see a period piece quite like it. We certainly won't because Kubrick is gone. But the approach to it, everything about it is unique. And I think that's worth noting. It's the kind of movie I like covering on this show because of that very reason. And I think it's absolutely worthwhile. And if you're balking at the length, you know what? There's an intermission. Bring them back.
Each of his movies feel like they're a different take on like an entire genre, which is kind of what I've always like really loved about Kubrick. Going back as far as The Killing, right? Like that's his quintessential heist movie, and there were so many of them made around the same time. But then he has like his sci-fi epic with 2001,
which is one of the great sci-fi epics, right?
Yeah. His horror movie,
but none of his other like The Shining as his horror movie, but then like his other movies weren't like that, or Clockwork Orange.
His sex comedy, Eyes Wide Shut.
Oh yeah.
Well, who doesn't want? No, it's his Christmas movie.
There it is.
It is Christmas movie. I want to do Eyes Wide Shut one day. That's like all my.
I'm gonna get all dressed up for that occasion.
All right, even more reason.
But we'll jump to the after party. I was trying to get us out of here to the main party, so we go party in the after party.
We're doing Superman.
We're doing Superman next week, and I hope they don't deport him by then.